Welcome everybody to the Serpent Tarot for another pick a card reading. So before I get into the pile choice and the nature of the reading and all of that in a little bit more detail, I do want to make a kind of an announcement or get a message across that I'm particularly filming this video today so I can publish it tomorrow with the purposes of hopefully getting the message to the particular person I need to get a message to, but also more generally to anybody who's interested in now or in some time in the future getting a reading from me through Etsy. So if you're not interested in that and you haven't actually tried to get a reading from me very recently, then you can just skip to the pile choice and the timestamps below. But for those who either have or are thinking about that, I've had an issue come up with an order that came in a couple of days ago from when this is being filmed, which in Australian time is on the 7th of May. And that is that the person I think must have signed in using their Apple ID, which is an option that is available to them. And that can be fine, I think, but every once in a while what seems to happen, and I've had this happen with one other client, it comes up then with a Apple ID relay address, email address, and it's not entirely sure or clear that if you message to that address, or indeed if I did a reading and emailed it to that it would ever get to them. I've been doing some Googling about that, and it seems to be very unclear and has caused some issues, I think, for other digital providers on Etsy. So I'm not alone in this, and I'm not sure that the issue's been resolved. So this happened with one other client that I had, but luckily they had got a reading from me before, so I was actually able to connect up the names and they put their name in, so I was able to contact them with the email they originally supplied. I just think that sometimes this happens and the people don't even know it's happened. So if you are someone who in the last few days has ordered a 30-minute video from me and you haven't heard from me and you haven't received it, then you're probably that person. And I'm hoping that you might see this because you did say some very kind things about my channel when you made the order. So I'm hoping that you'll see this. I did a community post as well too, but I don't know how widely they get distributed amongst viewers. So I thought this might be another way to get the message across. I have tried messaging you if you are this person via Etsy, but I don't know if you've received the messages. If so, you haven't responded to me yet. But what I need is to hear from you with an email address that I can email the details to, and also that with the YouTube link, because you've chosen a video, that will actually, if it's sent to you via YouTube, it will actually be one that you can access. So I just need to communicate with you, and if I don't reach you this way or via Etsy, then I will have to probably refund the order and hope that that might trigger you to contact me. The reading is actually done. I just want to get it to you, and it's a great reading. It's a very positive reading, so I'm hoping that we do manage to make contact. So to that person, if you know who you are, because if you've ordered from me in the last couple of days, you should have received your reading by now. So if you have and you haven't received it, then you're probably the one. Please contact me via my website. The contact details are on the About page on my YouTube channel here. Or I think if you just go in and message me from any of the Etsy listings that I have for my shop, the message will get to me. I just need an email that I can then correspond with you on. So hopefully we make contact. And if anybody is thinking about getting a reading from me and you do sign on with Apple, make sure, just in case this happens, because as I say, you may not even know it's happened, that you put an email address into your personalization so I can be in contact with you. In fact, anybody doing it, that is actually something I've asked for, to make sure that things get to you. And ideally, if you know it, the email address that you use to log into YouTube if you are going for a video reading. This is all just to make sure you get your readings. And I am sorry to take up the time here, but I am very concerned to get this reading, if I can, to my client. And so if it is you, please contact me. And when you do, please mention what it was you asked me to do the reading on and the detail that you gave me, so that I know it's you as well too. So hopefully that message will get to the person, and hopefully more generally, if you are interested in getting a reading, it's a little bit of cautionary advice to make sure that we don't kind of like have a problem with communication so that you can't get your reading done, or I need to refund you without you being able to get the reading, because I hate to do that for anybody. So now I'm going to put in the timestamps that we're at the pick a pile part of this, having done the announcement. So what today's reading is about is a key issue or series of issues in your life at the moment, and what your spirit team's view is on it, because it may be different to yours or it may be very similar. And in either case, your spirit team no doubt would have some advice for you around these key decisions. And the inspiration for doing this came from a viewer who was commenting on a previous video of mine, which was how you view yourself and how the divine views you, and said it would be interesting to have done that using the perspective of the Hanged Man. And I thought that's a really interesting perspective, because the Hanged Man is all about different perspectives, different viewpoints, getting sort of to see something from a different point of view. So I thought, what a brilliant idea. And thought, well, I don't want to absolutely repeat the same sort of reading just with the Hanged Man as the choice, but that this was a similar sort of theme. Like, what does your spirit team see from their perspective compared to yours? And where do those connect, and where may they differ, and so forth. So that's the theme of the reading. And we'll have a look at, firstly, what are kind of the areas in your life where there might be key decisions? What is the very high level view that your spirit team has about it? And then we'll drill into that in a little bit more detail with tarot. And then we'll have a look at sort of 3D type of issues and advice that they have, and then spiritual advice, and then bring it all together at the end. So as always, I'll put down the numbers for the readings, for those who like to choose by numbers. But what I will be doing is that I will be using a different tarot deck for each reading. So I've chosen the Hanged Man, taking my viewer's suggestion as the way to try and choose between those, if images or the decks are a better way for you to choose. So the reading number 1 has the Hanged Man from the Tattoo Tarot. Reading number 2 has the Hanged Man from the White Fly Tarot. Reading number 3 has the Hanged Man from the Cute and Creepy Tarot. And reading number 4 has the Hanged Man from the Rebirth Tarot. So of course, by all means, go to more than one reading if you get drawn to more than one, or right at the beginning, we're going to be looking at the sort of areas, as I said, where key decisions might be coming up. So if that doesn't resonate, it might tell you to check out another reading anyway. That's sort of a good way right from the beginning to see if you've gone to the right pile. But whatever suits you, one or more readings, the timestamps are in the description box below, and I'll see you there. Welcome, pile 1, to your reading. Sorry, I just fixed up the camera. It's gone a little bit out of angle. So these cards, these starting cards, are meant to give a bit of a sense to me about what are the key areas that decisions might be in play for you at the moment. Then we'll have a look with some other cards what your high-level spirit team's first viewpoint on this is before we look at the tarot. And there's 2 key things here for me, I think, from what I'm seeing. One is all around changes in your life to do with nurturing, potentially parenthood, or some form of sort of coaching, mentoring, looking after others, all of that kind of thing. It's very big change what we're talking about here, because we've got 3 with Dreams of Gaia, 3 major arcana cards. So very big, very connected to other people. These decisions do not only impact you, but the fact that we have self, the mother, and faith. And then we have the crown of the butterfly bambini for the divine circus, which is all about with butterflies, major transformations, and knowing that you can go through this, knowing that you will emerge as the butterfly, as that which you want to emerge. So there's a lot of confidence in all of this. So I think it is calling on you to have faith in yourself and faith in others around you. But there is either a major transformation. We've also got Vesta astrologically, which is sort of home and hearth and all of that kind of thing. The 5th house that picks up romance, but also children and that kind of issue. And I'll get to the archangels in a minute. But I feel for some that have come here, this decision may be about either deciding to be a parent with Mother, Vesta, 5th house, or changing, something around a parenting arrangement in some way. Could be a separation from a partner and you know, looking at how to sort of look after children. In that case, it could be around education of children and so forth. So it could be around that transformation and changes around a nurturing role that you have, and really being able to connect to the spiritual around this and bring out the potential in the children and also in yourself as that, and having the faith that you can make these changes. So for some that's very specific, but the number of those cards could be pointing to that. If it's not that, if it's not around whether or not you're ready to be a parent or thinking about that, or even wanting to create maybe a creative child in some way, where you need to have faith in yourself and your potential and so forth, picking up the creative energies of the fifth house and Vesta, that sort of like sense of stability and growth with it, then the other way of reading this is that you almost mother yourself through a change, because we have the self here and then faith. This could be all about your own, as I say, creative and who you are at home. There's a key thing about transforming yourself in some way, unlocking your potential, getting to the true spiritual basis of who you are. So if you're not in, as I say, a sort of parental or nurturing role or thinking about that, I think this is a process for yourself, but it's not just internal. Even though we've got the self here and we've got faith, which is a very internal thing, the fact that these are three major arcana tells me that there are other people involved in this. So one of the things that might be coming up, if that's the case, is how much you are letting other people influence you as opposed to having faith in yourself. So part of this transformation, which you should be able to go through and bring about, if it's something creative or something within yourself, creating yourself, is to have faith and stability in who you are and what you create, rather than listening to other people. So it'll be interesting to see whether or not we get that energy from spirit, from your spirit team, because there's something there around that. If it's parental nurturing, then there are others that also have responsibility and you have to sort of connect with and so forth. And of course, the other is also the child or the charge, you know, it could be a teacher or something that you're looking after. But if it is internal, there is a lot of external sort of issues around this. And this may, in fact, be a call towards a transformation where you go more to what you want than what other people have wanted from you. And in so doing, find out your own spiritual ability and your own creative ability and where you feel at home with yourself. So, you know, it's a sacred sort of area, sacred sort of faith in self that we're talking about. So, as I say, creative change, personal change, or maybe moving into or shifting some form of nurturing arrangement seems to be the area of key decision that this reading is about. So given that, let's put out some cards for what might be your spirit team's higher level perspective on how you should be viewing this. I'm not using the Dreams of Gaia with reversals. I'll read out these two because these are questions that are a bit hard to read, but I'll get to those. So firstly, what I wanted to do was get a sense around kind of God and Goddess sort of energy of the approach that your spirit team thinks you should be taking to this. And it's interesting because we've got, first of all, Easter, which is about new beginnings, which is about new growth and so forth. So again, it could be picking up those where this is looking at starting a family or shifting family dynamics. And it's a very positive energy around that. But if it's also new beginnings for you and creating those, again, it's a very positive energy. So certainly from the divine feminine side of things, this is saying that your spirit team is very pro you going towards the change and taking on the transformation and the new beginnings. Your spirit team also on the divine masculine side of things wants you to take a leadership role. So if you are looking at some sort of parental responsibility, that your idea about this, your belief about what needs to be done is very on point. Your spirit team are saying you should be leading out on this. You understand what you're doing. It could be, as I say, that you work in education or something like that, and that nurturing, you are meant to step into a leadership role. New beginnings might be to step up and do more with that and create more with that. If it's a creative project that we're talking about, or you changing yourself, part of that is about you stepping into leadership owning the new that is in you and realizing it's taking you to a higher level and that you're meant to do that on some way. And if it's a creative project, you're meant to lead out in something new, something very innovative. So your spirit team is on board definitely with the concept of change and unlocking your potential. Absolutely. They do want you to think about where you have felt emotionally disappointed before. There is something in this change, so it may be partly not to let it be triggered by that, but instead to be thinking through what you want to create, because we've got here the King of Air, so that's like the King of Swords. So that's a very thoughtful card, a card that's very balanced and so forth. With an emotional card around water, around cups, which suggests that there is some impetus to this that has come about as a result of some disappointment. So there's a very good prospect for going through the transformation now and it working, but I think that your spirit team want you to very much think about what is the end product that you want, and not so much as a reaction to things that haven't worked, but what is it that is really new that you want to bring in. The questions that they're suggesting you ask about this, firstly, one is to do with the constellation of Libra, so that picks up the King of Air, that's sort of very much air-oriented. What is the philosophy behind this? And the question is, what if you honour that some things are outside of your control? So it may be that whatever this transformation is that you're thinking about, you've tried it before. If you were wanting to start a family, maybe you had not been successful before, but now you're in a situation where things can start to come through. If you were looking for a step up creatively and it didn't work out, there's a new beginning where you can step into things, but you've got to almost let go and let God. That's the concept of faith there. So your sort of sense of having faith is actually on point, and I think your spirit team would agree. But it's like a balance here. They do want you to think through the philosophy of what you do, but not in such a way that it's controlling and saying there is only one way of doing things. There are a multitude of ways of doing things, this is saying. And if something hasn't worked in the past, it doesn't mean that it's sort of something to walk away from. There is still something there. With Canis Minor, we have, what if your grief liberated you? So yes, there's something around all of this where there has been a loss or something didn't work out. So your spirit team is very clear that part of the reason that you're looking at this, or you're moving towards whatever the decision is around this, in transforming your life, in nurturing others, whatever it may be, that some of it is about processing something that didn't work out. And the thing is to get the balance right intellectually, to know what you can influence and what you should influence to bring yourself into this, into the new beginning, and to take leadership and have faith in yourself. But on the other part of this, to allow what needs to come through for you to come through for you, and have faith that is about the potential. And it's some difference between the mysteries and the potential, because the mysteries is almost what you can't know and you have to have faith in. The potential is what you can work out and work with. So I think your spirit team is on board with you changing, but wants you to do it in a way that is balanced and not reactive. It's more proactive and balanced. Okay, so let's have a look at what Tarot wants to tell us about this. So there's three things that I want to ask. I want to ask, firstly, where does your spirit team absolutely agree with what you're thinking about this at the moment? Then we're going to ask, where do they differ, if at all? And then finally, what would be a different perspective, putting those two things together for you? So firstly, where does your spirit team agree with you wholeheartedly about this, whatever this decision or set of decisions is? Okay, so they agree completely that you can see this through with the Nine of Wands, and that, you know, you're closer to what you want than you possibly think. They also agree that this is freeing you from patterns that were not working. So there is certainly a sort of sense that there is the liberation from whatever it was that you needed to transform, to move from, is coming. And that is good. It's very close, and that it's a great investment. They're actually very keen on you taking whatever this step is. I think they're very keen on you doing it, certainly. They think that it's coming at the right time, that the time in fact is better now than maybe it was before. If you were disappointed before, the time is much better now. And if there's anything contractual around this, so if it is around creativity or around a career in some way, they really think that you're going to have a very good outcome with all of that, after maybe being concerned about whether something was long lasting. It is interesting though, I think that you may feel this transformation is a new beginning, which is like the Ten of Coins reversed, and I think that's true, but that it may be a stepping stone to something even more beyond that, because it feels as though it may be a little bit temporary, but it has an investment nevertheless. It takes you where you need to go. So whatever it is, if that's having a child, obviously that's not going to be temporary. But if that's the case, if it's around children and nurturing, it might be that they agree with you if you have a different approach to doing that than the traditional, that you are looking for sort of something that is more spiritual or just different from the very conventional side of things. So in fact, they're very happy with the concept that whatever you are thinking of doing is taking you away from the conventional and the constraints of the conventional, and that that you can see you have the energy and you can actually invest and bring this into being. So I think they're very pro you doing whatever this transformation is. But let's see about where they might differ from your viewpoint at the moment. It's interesting, they all came up reversed. I think the very first thing they're saying is that they have more faith in you than you do. That's why faith was so important, faith in self. That I think that you are a little bit feeling that you are at the whim of the gods, or you're not sure if you can make the decisions. That's why they want you to think about that. What is in your control and what isn't in your control, because you can master a lot of this. You are meant to be a leader in some way with what you do. You don't tend to see that in yourself. You almost equate anything that matters to your heart as being something that is outside of your control. And you have to wait for almost the other shoe to drop. But with the moon reversed, that's certainly a sense that you're going to get the information that you need. So they think you're a little bit pessimistic about whether or not you'll get the right information at the right time. They're saying that you will, and that you're going to be able to invest on this. You also worry about whether you can make the right decision, and they say you're wrong about that as well too, that in fact you're much more balanced and the intellect will help you a great deal here. They also think that you're a bit pessimistic about the outcome. So overall, it's sort of like they're thinking that you are underestimating yourself, that you are hiding your light to some degree. And particularly around emotional things, it looks to me like they think that you feel that's the area where you don't get what you want, where if you hope, you're hoping because it's something you won't get. They don't agree with that. They think that, in fact, once you go through this transformation, you realize you have everything that you need to do it. And that even if it's a transformation that leads to another one, that you can move on. You're going to shift in this sort of like innate fear that's there. So on some level you need to go through the change. You know that this is something you want to do, but you have a kind of a doubt about it. They don't share that doubt, which is good. That means, I think, from a high level perspective, that you'll find this is easier than you think. So let's see what different perspective can arise on this for you. Okay, so this is taking out all this sort of more repressed energy. Your sense of like, I can't make it, I'm going to be exhausted is going to shift. Your sense of being at battle with it is going to shift. And any residual emotional issues from what didn't work out before is going to shift. So what your spirit team is saying is that if you could believe in yourself to the same degree that they believe in you, and you could just take control of this transformation by thinking it through, because your mind, you're more comfortable with your mind than you are with your heart, because your heart feels like it can get broken more easily, and maybe was a little bit by something like this before that you didn't change or didn't transform. If you can do that, you let go of those emotional patterns and you find that you're not in conflict anymore, that you're actually in alignment with what you need to do, that brings in what you want. So in its essence, what this is saying is that your spirit team is saying you are far too hard on yourself and you're far too pessimistic for the outcome of what it is that you're doing, this change that you're doing. So if you were trying to start a family before it didn't work out, it's likely to work out now. If you were wanting to move into a leadership role or something like that, you are heading towards that now. There's a new beginning and you can transform. If there's something creative you wanted to bring in, you can do it. And if it's shifting who you are entirely, if you feel that you've actually had to really hide who you are, if it's something like your gender identity or some other thing in the way that you want to be in the world, whatever it is, you're actually much closer to achieving it than you think and much more able to. And this shift of perspective is going to take a lot of the sort of excess energy and excess conflict out of it and leach out that emotional stuff. So that's very positive. I think you should get with your spirit team here. I think that they are probably on the right track. So let's just get some 3D support for you. Let's start with the Heart Code Oracle. So I'm going to look at relationship, career, wellness and lifestyle. Just some energies around this that your spirit team would like you to think about or consider. Because these decisions could be in any aspect or some combination of all. Lust, okay. So if this is around a relationship, if this is around sort of transforming yourself around a relationship, then there's definitely, a lust for life, a lust for the relationship. The emotions could really be sort of let go and let loose. So that's nice. That's a sort of sense of bringing that sort of energy back in. And I am getting both, potentials for very creative, productive relationships coming in, but also lust for life. Let's see, career. Frustration. Okay, so I think you have probably felt some of this frustration around your career. I think it's probably pointing that for some of you this is creative or around your career. And so your spirit team is wanting to have a look at what caused that frustration. Let your mind work that out. Mind is a good sort of energy for working out career issues, probably more than sort of the heart or just going with the sort of passions or just the material. The mind can actually work through what the problems are. So there's some problem solving, I think, around career to break through frustrations and create who you are. And certainly if you've been looking for a job or looking to move up the ladder, you can work through that frustration. Around wellness, hearing. Okay, so it could be that there are hearing sort of issues for you to think about, if that resonates. But otherwise, I think it's like general wellness comes from listening and hearing for the cues and hearing for what the opportunities are. It also will hopefully help you hear what your spirit team is saying about the fact that you have far more going for you for this change than you think. And now let's look at lifestyle. Stagnant. Yeah, okay. So I think this is where spirit wants you to think about the fact that you underestimate yourself, and so you frustrate your career things. You can get stagnant in your lifestyle rather than bringing in the new. You're meant to do this. So the degree to which you do feel that you want to change and change is coming, you're right, and they agree with you 100%, but they feel that you underestimate what you can do, and this is how it gets caught. I think it is saying listening to what's going on around you and reviving that lust for life and lust for people and all of that kind of thing is the key to actually really bring about the change that you're talking about, and understand that you don't have to be in conflict and frustration, because that's conflict and frustration and stagnant energy. But you can break out of that if you back yourself a little bit more. Okay, so let's look at what spiritual advice your spirit team would give you. So I'm going to use 3 different decks just to get some spiritual energies that will help you shift to their perspective if you agree with them. And I think in this case you probably should, because I think you're the person who's underestimating yourself here. So firstly, from the Soul Helper Oracle. A difficult path is being revealed. Ask for help and learn that we are all connected. So there could be some difficulties associated with this. This could be the frustration. It's going to be around career and lifestyle if that's the case. But you can go through this change. You can do it. You just have to sort of ask your spirit team for help, ask for guidance and so forth. And the love of your dragon reaches out to you. The realm of truth is opening up. So truth is opening up. something's going to come to you with the moon reverse. You're going to start to understand some of these things more and be able to transform more easily in whatever way that you want to do and believe in yourself more. There's some information that's going to come to you, either spiritually or it might be very practical and pragmatic, but there's a protective energy with the dragon energy there for you. Let's have a look at another sort of realm of spiritual help. Wise speak. Your words are your vibrational, authentic communication opens the voice of clarity and wisdom. Hearing, listening, talking. There's something about communication. This is why the air element was so important for you going through this transformation. And remember I said at the beginning that other people are involved in this. It's not something you can do alone. I think there is definitely something about communication for you here. And celebrate. The energy of excitement is in the air. Announcements, connections, and celebrations bring unity and joy. So you're going to succeed. Your spirit team wants you to know you're going to succeed. You're your own worst enemy in terms of doubting it, but you are going to succeed. And in talking about being your own worst enemy, I'm just going to pull a card from a spiritual deck that can pick up sort of darker or shadow energy, just to see what else your spirit team might want you to focus on that could have that element, that could be something you're not seeing or something unconscious. Protection. Set personal boundaries. Okay, so you are being protected. We've been told that you're being protected, but this change is something that is integral to you. Your nurturing and parental thing, your parenting of yourself and your creation of yourself, your identity, your leadership, whatever it is. But there are other people involved. Other people will have a point of view. It is important to listen, hear, wisely speak. That will get and navigate you through most of it, and you are going to succeed. But you do need boundaries around this so that you authentically change to what you want, as opposed to sort of like losing that confidence, you know, at the moment of change and then accommodating other people. So there is a sort of sense here of making sure that you understand your power and that you have the boundaries around other people's opinions. Okay, so to close off, I'm just going to get some astrological energy for you, and also I'm going to look at, you know, chakra and astrology together, just for the like final parts of information or advice that your spirit team wants to give you. So we've got Aries, 7th house, Cardinal, which is about initiating. I'm going to get one more. And full moon. Yeah, full moon's the celebration. You are going to come through this. You doubt it. That's the difference of perspective. It's a very big change. There's a lot of growth and a lot of real wonderful outcomes, you know, coming your way. But you doubt it at the moment, but you are going to come through it, and you are going to initiate. You're going to open up this Aries energy, which is a bit like the Zeus energy, the leadership energy, the innovator, the taking things forward, the Mars sort of energy. So you're very much focused at the moment on the kind of nurturing divine feminine, but that you do need to balance, and your spirit team was showing this also, the kind of divine masculine side of things. This is about balance in some way. For some of you, it could be around a major relationship. So it could be nurturing yourself enough to be in a committed relationship and to accept love into your life, particularly if you have been heartbroken in the past, or accepting what type of relationship you want, if this is about your identity as opposed to what's expected of you. In either case, as I say, you're meant to be the initiator of this. You change it. You do not do what other people want anymore. Do what is true to you. Okay, and so to finish off, we're going to use some Astro Chakra cards. Crown Chakra. Crown Chakra. So you're very spiritually connected, very spiritually guided. And this is about creativity. Creativity of yourself, creativity of others, whatever it might be. Having two spirituality or two crown chakra is like having these two planets, which is Mercury and Venus conjunct. That's beautiful. If this is about relationship within yourself, but also relationship with another, and being able to transform into accepting that and taking that on and committing to that, that's beautiful. There's great communication and great love between you and the other person. If it's on a broader level than that, then this is the energy of contemplation and selflessness. I think it's meant to get those in balance if that's the case. I suspect your spirit team would be saying you've been too selfless. It's time to also contemplate with your mind, with Mercury, with all of that, what you need as well. Because we've also got Mercury over here in creativity, which says to me that what you're meant to create, as much as anything, is meant to align with your mind, as we've been saying all the way through, so that it's about your true emotions, so that what you create is true to yourself. Whether it's, as I say, it's a version of you, whether it's a child, whether it's a creative project, whether it's moving up the ladder. But whatever it is, there is an overall sense here that your spirit team agree with you. It is time for you to emerge in your full flowering of creativity and whatever that means, and that you're very spiritually protected for it, but that you underestimate yourself and you tend to do what others want more than what you want. And it is time for you to reverse that, to take the initiation and to reap the rewards that you richly deserve coming from that. So I hope that that resonates for you, Pile 1, and I hope you enjoyed the reading. If so, please like the video and subscribe. And if you care to share in the comments, I'd love to hear about it. Otherwise, I hope to see you in future readings. Welcome, Pile 2, to your reading. So these first cards are to get a sense about the type of area in your life that key decisions might be upcoming for you, or you might be in the middle of, partly to make sure that you've come to the right reading, and then secondly, we'll be using some of the other cards that were under the Hanged Man that brought you here to look at what your spirit team's view on these particular issues are. So this is more probably what you would recognize, and then we'll get to what your spirit team sees in this. So there's a couple of things with this. This is largely about going on a new journey which you've been inspired to do in some way. And for some, I'm getting a very strong feeling about sort of entertainment, writing, communication, singing. This is partly because of Voice of an Angel here. This card doesn't have to be about music, but I feel a music sense of it here for some reason. And also because Taurus is there, and I kind of associate Taurus with good wine, good song, good fun. And so there's sort of something about music, creativity and so forth. But this is, regardless of whether it's about music, it's got a highly inspirational aspect to it. You've been inspired in some way, or you are about to be inspired in some way, and it is to go on a new journey of some sort that will connect with other people, because this is a major arcana card, and also because we have the 11th house here, which is about connections with friends, social groups, social media, that sort of thing. So there's an external connection here, but a lot of this is internal. And the interesting thing is that whatever this inspiration is, so whether, as I say, you're creative and you write and you sing, or whether it's just sort of something that you're out as a social influencer on some level, that's a possibility as well. There's a lot of learning that has gone into this, and a lot of sort of contemplation. So it's not based on nothing. There's a sense that you have really thought about all of this and considered it, and it's very sort of strongly emotionally resonant as well. So it's kind of your mind has connected it on a universal truth here. There's a strength to what's coming through with Michael, but your heart sees what's coming through as almost miraculous. It almost gets the sense to me of someone who has been creative in some form and has recently been suffering from a bit of a writer's block or a creative block, and something is coming through. And when it comes through, the decision is what to do with it, what journey to take it on, who should the audience be, how should you present it, how do you take what is very deeply thought about into something that is sort of very emotionally connected. So this feels like decisions around how to express yourself in the world in some form or another, possibly with Taurus as an earth sign as some form of career, or to bring in the good life and to bring in abundance. But it's definitely connected with other people, connected with social groups, social influencing, that sort of thing. So if that resonates for you, you're at the right reading. Let's see your spirit team's perspective on this. So we have Ixchel as a goddess, Achilles. We'll get to these, but these are some questions that they want you to think about right from the beginning. And then a couple of other dreams of Gaia energy about how they're viewing it. So I think looking at this, that your spirit team is not necessarily they disagree with you, but they are looking at it from a very different perspective. So for you, you are definitely, you almost do see this as a miracle. I think that they think that this is something that's come from your very high skill and releasing that didn't work and so forth. So they see it more as a universal truth. You probably see it more as miraculous when you get the inspiration. But I think they want you to back that more and have more confidence in it. But they also see this, you see it as a kind of like a learning and an inspiration. They see it as creativity and they see it as bringing it into being. So there is certainly something here where they want you to do something with it. It's interesting that this falls with Taurus, this sort of feeling of something earthy. So do it as a career, do it as a creative project, make something that is material or that brings a material reward out of it. There's definitely a huge amount of potential there, they believe, because this is like the Ace of Pentacles, which is effectively a blessing. And they think it comes from your abilities as opposed to from a miracle. That's why you can ground it, and you are very creative, and you should own that you're very creative and feel confident in that. And it's interesting, we have Achilles here for confidence. I feel like they think that you look at the world of how you would create this, bring this out and be seen in the world. You feel a little bit, like, oh, there's a lot of competition. Will I be able to do it? You may have felt in the past that things you've done in that area haven't worked. But with Ixchel here, this is actually a card of release, releasing that which didn't work. It's also about the sort of flood of water and so forth, which picks up the sort of like emotional inspiration around what you do, but it's meant to clear things out. So I think that your spirit team thinks there's something about the journey that you want to go on creatively, where you're still trying to kind of sort out something that maybe didn't work or that you didn't feel confident about, or that you're still, as I say, feeling at the mercy of the muses and miracles, as opposed to something, your own creative ability and your own manifestational ability. Achilles here, this card is primarily about having confidence and moving out in confidence and being able to go into battle. Now, of course, Achilles has the famous Achilles heel where one can be overconfident. So we will see if anything comes up beyond this that suggests that they have to think about, they want you to think about that. And it may be making sure that something can be grounded is important, rather than just having the flood of information and inspiration coming through. But I think by and large this card in this deck is more about having that confidence, knowing you have the skills, knowing that you're ready. These two cards have questions associated with the different constellations that they have. So they're hard to read the questions, so I'll read each out. So these are some questions really early in the piece that your spirit team want you to think about. So with Cetus it says, what if you could see the world through the eyes of your enemy? So there's definitely something about competition here. I feel like it's competitive competition. I feel like it's competition in like the kind of the world of networks and the world of sort of, social groups and all that kind of thing. It's about understanding that there's competition. This prepares you to be confident if you understand this. I think your spirit team is saying that your competition may see more of your potential than you do. You may be very much caught up in the sort of like almost intellectual and emotional beauty of something, but wondering how you go on the journey. Your competition have kind of worked out how to create and manifest something, and they see what you could do. So I think there is a thing about look at those who are your competition and so forth. Understand what they do, which is maybe different to what you do, and understand they're seeing you as being able to do this. So that helps you prepare to be in battle. Then we have over here boots, and this says, what if everything isn't always fair? So yeah, I think that your spirit team wants to say to you, what you're taking as a miracle is not really that. It really is your ability, but you are in a highly, whatever you do, even if it isn't creative, though I think many people here will be, whatever it is, it's a highly competitive environment. It's one of battle quite often, and there are real competitors and so forth. You need to release when things haven't worked, because sometimes things aren't fair, but the way that you get the confidence and the advantage is to understand what is different about what your competition do to you, which seems, I think, is in this. They really think about the monetary outcome. They really think about how they compete. You're thinking about what comes in, what's the beauty, what's the truth of the message, what's the emotional resonance. They think of it like a business. So I think that your spirit team just want you to think about that, because you've got a lot that you could actually bring into being. So let's use tarot, and we're going to ask 3 different questions. The first question that we're going to ask is what do your spirit team agree with you about? What are they in firm agreement with you about this issue? Then we're going to ask where they differ, and then we're going to ask what the benefit of a different perspective taken into that account might be. So firstly, spirit teams for pile 2, what do you agree with pile 2 about this decision and this journey at this point? Don't be concerned in this kind of question about things all being reversed. This is really just about perspective, so it doesn't really matter. So they agree with you that an unconventional approach is necessary. You do actually have the learning, but you're at the point of skill and so forth that you can sing your own song, like the Voice of an Angel card. You can do something unconventional, and you're thinking of doing something unconventional, and they agree with you entirely about that. They also agree that the purest form of what you do is not about the competition. They're only bringing this up, I think, so that you can manifest it more in the world, and we'll see what happens with what they don't agree with. But they do agree with you that, you know, if you say, I'm a lover, not a fighter, they'd agree that's right, and that's, you know, there really is a purity to what you do and a truth to what you do that's unconventional and not really meant to be about the battle. They also agree that it's important not to suppress the emotional side of this. Your heart needs to be in it. If you felt going into this competition that your heart was suppressed, you wouldn't actually be as effective in what you do. But you know, and they agree here, that you're in a competitive and a difficult environment where not everybody plays fair. So, but you know this. And they agree with you that that's the case. It doesn't mean that it can fix up what wasn't fair, but they know that you've had disappointments, and they agree with you that it wasn't fair. They agree with you that things that should have actually come into fruition didn't. And I think on some level you're sort of aware with Taurus, and then also with this turning up here, I think that you're coming to be on their sort of wavelength around the fact that you need to be a little bit more business minded. And so I think that's there. It's like, how do you actually, what does this journey become where it takes you somewhere, as opposed to just being very intellectually interesting and very emotionally resonant and very beautiful? You're starting to think that, and they're very happy that you're thinking that you're recognizing that that's something that's missing. So what don't they agree with you about? What would they differ on? Okay, there's a few things here. So firstly, they think that you are far more advanced around what you could bring out creatively than you're thinking at the moment. They think that this universal truth is really the key thing, and Achilles there in the sense of confidence. You could move very quickly, faster than you're thinking. That in fact, it wouldn't even be that long for you to work out a business side of things. Very quick mind. They think that you underestimate how quick your mind is. Even though that's part of what brings in the inspiration for you, they think it's even more than you think, and that there's enormous potential for what you could do. That it shouldn't just be something that you sit in your room and you contemplate the beauty of, that you really take out into the world. Hence why we had the 11th house as well as the journey card. They think that there is more potential in this for abundance and creativity than you think. They also think that you can rely more on you than on other people, that it's not necessary to have people who think similarly to you or have a similar vision. You listen to critique too much, they say. So if you're in an industry, say you're a writer, I'll just pull an example, you may listen too much to what everybody's opinion is on, you know, how you write a book, or, you know, are you writing it in the right sort of tense, for instance, or is it the right genre? They do feel that you have more potential and you're more forward thinking than you're giving yourself credit for, and that you may listen to critique far too much, and that kind of makes you lose some of your emotional joy in something. You need to walk away from that. It doesn't mean you don't listen to it to some degree, because if you're in a competitive environment and you're in industry, then obviously you need to know what some of those norms are. But it is saying that you would, if you wrote, say, a blog and 20 people loved it and said, you know, it's fascinating, it's forward thinking, it's creative, it's inspirational, and then one person came along and critiqued it, you're going to pay attention to that. They want you to not do that. They want you to back yourself. Okay, so let's ask what you would get from this shift in perspective. Okay, so for a start, you'd start to really formulate something in the material world, and they do think that that's important for you. And that's great. You may also bring in a very significant partner. So if there's been heartbreak and breaking up from people, you know, because of creative differences or whatever, you're likely to bring in, by just owning that in yourself, the right partners, the right people, the right love, whatever that might be. They also think that you will feel much stronger and firmer in what you believe and in yourself, and have a very clear way of dealing with any of the conflict, and will become very petty. It's no, you know, the Five of Wands is no match for the Empress and the King of Swords together. Like, that's a very powerful thing. So just shifting enough to understand that you're stronger. You know, you really like Achilles, but, you know, Achilles does have Achilles heel, so you don't think you're invincible, because then, of course, somebody will come along and attack the heel, so to speak. But knowing that you have far more skill than you perhaps give yourself credit for, and that you're able to bring things into material being, will bring in the right people and make you feel very firm about what you're doing. Okay, so let's have a look at this in the 3D world. So we're going to use 4 of the Heart Code Oracles: relationships, career, wellness, and lifestyle, just to see what other energies are around that kind of thing, around whatever these decisions are that your spirit team want you to think about. So for relationships, rekindle. Okay, so it might bring back a past love. By backing yourself and moving forward, you may bring back a past love. So if that's part of what you were trying to get over, then there is the possibility that by being more confident within yourself, you can bring that back. If not, it might be rekindling your wish to connect to other people if you've kind of backed away a bit and become a bit isolated, because you do need to connect with other people to really bring whatever this is into being. See, career, reward. Yeah, so you'll be rewarded for doing this. You are, as I say, you're very talented. It's a matter of just getting it out there. Let's have a look at wellness and well-being. Empathetic. So you're very emotionally connected to people. The one thing I think, though, that your spirit team would want you to think about with that is that that's beautiful for the beauty of whatever you create, for emotionally resonant things, for getting the reward, for being seen, to really connect with people, and that's all very important. And you can't let the air energy take over completely. You do need the heart and so forth. But if you are too empathetic, you can draw in too much of the other energy and of other people. So you do need to keep things in balance. It's important to have some boundaries with that. And then lifestyle, reaction. Yeah, I think that they're saying at the moment you're tending to react to people at this point, and this empathy might be working there. That's why I think that there's sort of a bit of a boundary issue around that. But equally, once you sort of rekindle your sort of heart center and you get the rewards, the reaction that you have around your lifestyle is positive. So your lifestyle will shift when you shift other elements in your life. Okay, so let's get spiritual advice around it for you. So first of all, we're going to get what the Soul Helper Oracle would say to you about this from your spirit team. Oh, this is interesting. That came up from one of the other groups. The love of your dragon reaches out to you. The realm of truth is opening up. So you're starting to see things more clearly. And this, I always think if a dragon energy comes up, it's definitely a sense that you're protected. So you're in a competitive environment, definitely, but you are protected. And protect what you love. It's your duty and responsibility. I think this is protecting your creative self, your creative ideas. Maybe some of what wasn't fair was somebody kind of taking ideas from you or taking the credit for something, because you are highly creative. So there's an energy around this. You protect what you love and your spirit team will protect you. Okay, let's get some more information from a different deck. Apprentice, inspired learning is the call of the soul in pursuit of self-mastery. Be courageous with your emerging talents. So there may be things that you're still learning. There is a little bit of that in the Three of Swords that we had up there in the Dreams of Gaia pack. That's not sort of like heartbreak in the way it is. It's more about learning. So there may be that you can still be an apprentice and still learn things. You may also help others. You may actually inspire them and tutor and coach and mentor others as well, I think, because I think that most of the people coming here are pretty well advanced. But I guess we can always be lifelong learners. And then we also have muse. You're a source of inspiration. Become the muse of your own life and breathe imagination into your soul. Yes, this is all about your sort of muse energy. You may even get a muse or be a muse to somebody, literally, with the lovers there, as you become more seen and known in the world. That can occur. And if that happens, actually, do be wary of the empathetic side of things. Muse energy is strange. It is incredibly inspirational. And if you are a muse to somebody, you are incredibly inspirational to them, but it's almost vampiric. So do be aware if somebody is using you as a muse that you need some boundaries around you and so forth, because you can get a bit drained in that energy. Okay, so, and speaking of, that which could drain or be a bit vampiric, I also want to pull a card from a deck which sometimes shows more of the shadow spiritual elements, just to see what else your spirit team wants you to think about when considering these key decisions. Paradisiacal, you belong to paradise. So you're meant to be successful. You're meant to enjoy what you want. You are heading in the right direction with the journey, and you're meant to embrace that. So I think the only shadow element around that, I think, is doubting it. So I think that your spirit team feel that you underestimate how much you could create through your own skills and your own inspiration, the sort of like the world that you want, that Taurian energy that we got at the beginning. Okay, so to close out, I just want to use some astrology energy around this that your spirit team want to talk to you about, and then the Astro Chakra cards. So air, this is the mind again, and the mind is very important, Virgo, and bringing things into sort of material being. First house, you're meant to be seen. You're not meant to be behind the scenes. And trine, we'll have a look at the planets for that. So things are going to be easier than you think. But air element, what you think about this is very important, and bringing it into material being. This is the two really key things. Your philosophy behind this. And that's kind of what you're already bringing to it with the air energy that we saw. And then Virgo, which is what your spirit team want you to think about, which is how to make it material. First house is also how to make sure you're seen in the world, because you are meant to be seen in the world. And with that 11th house, with social networks, social media, that kind of thing. Trine, as I say, is an aspect of ease. So let's see what planets we get for that. Neptune, straight out the gate. So that's inspiration. Sometimes it takes them. Neptune and Mars. Yeah, inspiration and ambition. Your ambition can be fueled by your inspiration. Your inspiration is fueled by your ambition. They work well in harmony when you allow them to work in harmony. So that kind of the emotional side and the inspiration side, with a bit of that Achilles energy of getting out in the competitive world, it will be more successful than you possibly think. Okay, let's finish off with some Astro Chakra cards. Creativity, and there you are. Power, being seen in the world, and spirituality, being protected and so forth, and the inspiration. So, okay. Creativity has Uranus. So you are a change agent with that. You're bringing in something different and new. The issue, I guess, around Uranus, and this is why I think that your spirit team is wanting you to think about grounding this and making something, is it could be all about the change and never about the outcome. So I think there is a little bit of a tilt from your spirit team to think about that as well too, because you're very much into the ideas, the inspiration, the truth of it. But you do need to ground some of this, because we've also got Uranus in your solar plexus chakra. You're a non-conformist. You don't follow what people want you to do. That's probably very good because you're highly creative. But again, you may need, it's that balance, as I said, it's the balance of understanding, say, the industry you're in and following the rules you need to follow to get seen, known, achieve yourself. Then you can break all the rules you like, but you've got to kind of go through that, but equally not be so caught by that you lose faith in what you do and you're only hearing the critique. And that's where I think the spirituality comes in, where the protective energy comes in with Neptune there, inspiration, your spiritual beliefs, your faith in your spirit team. They're behind you. They believe in you. That's going to take you through that so that you can establish what you need to establish. So I hope that that resonates for you, pile 2, and I hope it gives you a bit of a different perspective from your spirit team that really solidifies what I think is a great deal of promise for you. I hope you enjoyed it. If so, please like the video and subscribe, and if you care to share about it, I'd love to hear about it in the comments. Otherwise, I hope to see you in future readings. Welcome, pile 3, to your reading. So we have some cards from the Dreams of Gaia deck to get a sense about the area in particular where this is mainly occurring in your life, where the decisions are, with some archangel sort of energy, some astrology, and also the divine circus here. These 3 cards together sort of kind of give a really good context for this particular reading, I think. This is a decision that you are trying to make where you have felt before that maybe you overestimated your knowledge about something, or you let ego take control, or where you feel like to think that you are ready to do something, argue something, or whatever, that may be hubris. Because the 8 of air in this deck is about that. It's about questioning whether or not you have all the information that you need, whether or not you are operating from pure thought, or whether it's from sort of ego and so forth. It's how we chain ourselves intellectually sometimes, for a particular outcome as opposed to what the facts may show. And with the youth, I feel as though it's because you think that you're not quite ready to do something. So it's like maybe you attempted something and it didn't work in some field in your life, relationship, career, study, or something like that. Or you wanted to do something without doing the formal study, for instance, and you're not sure if you're ready or whether you're still early in the journey. The interesting thing, though, with the Queen of Air being here, though, is that you're naturally very, very smart. So it's sort of an interesting question of, can you go by your native intelligence and you don't therefore have to be really well schooled, or do you need to be well schooled? So there's almost a question around, I think this is probably around career or philosophy or something, but it seems to be around you deciding to what degree does your native intelligence and ability and precocity, really, I think you were probably always very able to learn very quickly, even as a child, balance out with the need for not going too far and understanding what those limitations are. And it's interesting because the Maven of Masks card talks about faking it till you make it. So I get this sense, actually, and it'll be interesting to see what your spirit team think, that in fact you have a lot more ability natively, intelligence-wise, than you're really thinking that you do. Maybe you got burnt. I think you got burnt with something. So whether it was that, you didn't study a particular thing and you went out with your sort of own ideas, and then people sort of cut you down because it wasn't the conventional way of looking at things, or whether you went for a job and you didn't have the formal qualifications and then it didn't work out. There's something you're healing from where you think maybe you got over your skis a bit. But on the other hand, there really is a very natural capacity to do things, and a capacity to wear a mask when it's necessary to show confidence that maybe you don't fully feel inside. So to the degree that there is any hubris there, it's almost compensatory. It's almost like you really do know you have this ability, but it's like trying to work out when can you show it and how can you show it. You can definitely bring in abundance with this, and you have the internal balance with alchemy. There's a lot of wisdom. As I say, there's a lot of really natural intelligence and a great degree of communication skill, but there's some wound. There's something where something didn't work out, or you didn't feel quite good enough or ready enough, or what weren't recognized, or something like that. And that's kind of rocked your confidence a bit. So this is really, are you ready to start on something? Can you, as I say, fake it till you make it? Even though I don't think you're really faking it, I think you have a lot of natural ability in whatever this is. But it's kind of like, can you just rely on that, or are you going to need to do something more conventional? So let's get a bit of a feeling about what your spirit team think about this. Okay, so they definitely think that you can put on the mask that you need, shapeshift to be what you need to be. you are actually able to do this. If something's occurred where it didn't quite work or something like that, or you felt that it didn't quite work, or you lost a friend or you lost a lover or something because of that. But they really do think that you can shapeshift and wear the mask that you need until it's actually in place, and that you are far more developed, particularly intellectually, than you're thinking that you are. And if you think it will be so, you can shapeshift and so forth. They also think there's something quite irresistible about your intelligence and your energy. And I think this is what can bring in the abundance. So I think that they would feel that you are overly concerned about something that didn't work, as opposed to thinking about what does work and so forth. They do think that you dwell on emotional issues that maybe didn't work out. It's a heart healing that you need, and it's about balancing the emotion, the intellect. I think that they think what's interesting about you is you have such a smart mind, but in a weird way, you kind of let it sort of be dominated by the heart and emotions. So you're reactive to when people don't see it. You're like somebody who, as I say, very naturally smart, but you've come up across, some very conventional way of thinking about things or something, and you haven't been accepted or it hasn't worked, and you took that a lot to heart and kind of went into what was wrong with you, and are you really where you think you are? There's a lot of self-doubt around that. They're saying that in actual fact, if you can connect your sort of emotions with your intellect, because your intellect is so strong, then you can be whatever you need to be to navigate the most conventional environments when you're more unconventional, and to bring out this irresistible energy. So I think that they think that you're more capable of doing this than you're thinking that you are. But it is that you're going into something where you feel you've got a native ability, but not necessarily the qualifications, or you're not necessarily doing it the way that everybody else does it or whatever. They think that you can find the way to balance that out. These two cards are from a deck that has different constellations and questions associated with it. It's hard to read the writing, so I'll read you the questions. So for Ophiuchus, I'm not even sure if I'm pronouncing that constellation correctly, but it says, what if it just because you can doesn't mean you should? Okay, so that's interesting. So they may be saying you can really be in any environment you want. You can succeed anywhere you want. Your mind's really sharp, really. Pretty much you can wipe the floor with anybody, to be frank. But maybe when it didn't work out before, it might have been because it wasn't really where you should be. Like it's an interesting thing. I remember once working with somebody who was very, very smart, but he got kind of stuck in his career. And he said to me that when he was at school, he went to a career counsellor, and they pretty much looked at all his results and said, oh, well, you can do anything. And then kind of left him there. And he said that actually was the worst thing that could possibly have been said to him, because then he really didn't know where to focus. So there could be something here about your spirit team are saying, owning that you are precocious in so many and multi-talented in so many different levels, and can almost walk in and fake it till you make it anywhere. That's not really your guiding star. It should be the balance of your emotion, your intellect, what touches your heart as well as your mind. And then crooks here, the question is, what if we are not measured by what happens to us, but rather by how we respond to it? So again, if something kind of pulled you up short and made you start to wonder about what your abilities were, that's not the sum total of you. And your spirit team wants you to know that. Okay, so let's get tarot and get into a little bit more detail for you. And so what we're going to do is we're going to ask three different things. The first thing we're going to ask is, where's your spirit team in complete and wild agreement with you about this issue? Then we're going to ask where they differ for the different perspective, and then we're going to ask what the benefit of that different perspective could be for you. So firstly, spirit teams for pile 3, where are you in agreement with pile 3? Okay, so firstly, they agree that you should be thinking for yourself rather than what other people think. With the 3 of Wands reversed, it's like you need to be able to go out on your own creative journey and be confident in that, not look for the approval of others. So if there's wounding around the approval of others or whether you fit it in, they agree with you that that isn't helpful for you. You should be looking to your own sun, that you have a lot of abilities, a lot of talents, and you have a lot of reason to be optimistic, definitely. But they do agree that putting a slightly different perspective on things is helpful. They kind of agree that in a weird way, whatever you suffered that made you sort of question yourself, it was an important part of your development, because you need to sort of understand this question about not just doing anything just because you can, but working out the thing that you should do, and that your mind is the way that you're going to work that out. Yeah, so now you've got the King of Swords as well as the Queen of Swords. Your mind is very strong, but it can also straitjacket you sometimes. So they're agreeing with you that your balance between your natural precocity of mind and you're wondering about whether you're being a little bit too up yourself about it or something, and whether you need to be more conventional, that's the issue to really work around, to work out how you are in control of your mind rather than letting your mind be in control of you. And I think they think that you see this, you know this. So let's see where they think differently to you. Okay, so they definitely think you're too much of a critic on yourself. And whatever this thing was that didn't work, you have put far too much store in that, they're saying. And it's like, because you're so clever, you think, how could that have happened? Like, how could I have been fooled, or how could I have not fitted in, or something like that. There's a sort of like you castigate yourself, and they don't agree with you doing that. They also don't agree with you sort of trying to kind of be false either. So this journey in the wearing of masks is not about being false. That's also why this question is here about do things because you should, not because just you can. Because you could go in and you could wear any mask, but you need the one that most aligns with who you truly are and what you truly believe and what you truly think. So they certainly would not agree with you going back into this environment, say wearing a mask, to try and like undo what didn't happen. It's sort of like, whatever this was, let it go, move on, because that was just meant to sort of show you that you need to make the choice about what you really should do, as opposed to all these various things that you can do. They do think that you underestimate your creative ability, actually. You do to some extent, you know this, but they really think that you underestimate that, and that you don't. You think you're much more about the mind and understanding systems and processes and things like that, not so much about creativity. They think you're more creative than you think, but that that's very connected to your emotions, and it's very easy for you to get discouraged creatively. So if you're very, very good at academia, for instance, but you're also a poet, you're much more likely, they say, to get disappointed and discouraged around the poetry, even though it's likely to be excellent. So they want you to think about that. They want you to free yourself from the emotional expectations you have around things. They feel that you kind of get a bit obsessed with what didn't work out and critiquing yourself rather than thinking about what could work out. So it's really, they think that you use your mind as a weapon against yourself just as much as you use it to be clever and successful in the world. So let's see what they think would come from taking a different perspective that they're suggesting. Okay, so they're saying that you can do much more unconventional things, that to some degree, if you're always trying to sort of fit in and do what you think, like prove something, then to some degree you're making yourself more conventional than you're meant to be. You're meant to be a little bit more sort of sunshiny and different. They also say that you will find more of your own people once you actually accept that and you sort of test out different environments. You don't sort of feel like every environment has to work. You almost go in and you test it out and see. And you might shift a feeling that you have at the moment about not being recognised. So you might have a little bit of a chip on your shoulder, and it's understandable because you are really, really smart. But I just think that something didn't quite work out. So I think that they feel that this different perspective can shift that, can bring you more out into the world and also bring more recognition for you in the longer term. But it is in being unconventional. I think you could fit into any organisation. You may well work in an organisation or a conventional workplace, but there's something very mercurial and different about you, and basically that's what they think. You'll get that sort of sense and that confidence to be an iconoclast when it's necessary. Okay, so let's have a look at this on a 3D level. We're going to use the heart code oracles to have a look at energies around relationships, career, wellness and lifestyle, to see what your spirit team have to say about that, their perspective on those things around this decision or set of decisions that this reading represents. So around relationships, confront. Yeah, so this could either be confronting people who want you to be a particular way or that you feel that you have to wear a mask with, or it could be you confronting your own energy around relationships and what is it to be in relationships. Because that's one area where you don't really want to be wearing masks if it's personal relationships. I mean, certainly in work, sometimes you need to, but I think that there could be something here to sort of confront the implications of your really, really clever mind with relationships. So that could be something to think about, a different perspective. Around career, celebration. So yeah, they think that you should be celebrating, you should be getting somewhere, your skills, you should back yourself with your skills, and you'll find that that quickly turns into something that is very good around career. Let's see, wellness energy around you. Autoimmune. Okay, this comes up, I think, I mean, it could be that you have autoimmune issues, but I think the autoimmune here, for me, tends to always talk about that's when the body attacks itself, and you are attacking yourself mentally. So I think this is just showing you causing stress for yourself and your health by questioning yourself all the time. You shouldn't be questioning your ability. Your ability is spectacular. You should be only questioning where it is best to use that ability. Okay, and then let's have a look at lifestyle. Solution. Okay, so there may be a solution to all this in lifestyle. Maybe the way to really work out what should you be doing is what sort of lifestyle do you want? And then go from that. Build from what the lifestyle is that you want and build out from that, and you'll probably come to the right place and the right thing for you. Okay, let's see if we can get some spiritual advice as well as the 3D advice. The Tree of Wishes is calling your name. An almost forgotten wish will now come true. So yeah, if there was something you really wanted to do, even from your youth, as I say, I think you were very precocious when you were young. Think about that. That might be connected to the solution. You know, if you were a kid who always wanted to be a traveller and explorer or whatever, and now you're in some conventional job where you never travel, then maybe the solution is thinking about the lifestyle you want. That's just an example. And then we also have, oh my goodness, this has come up so far for all of them. I think this is really just saying your spirit team's very protective. The love of your dragon reaches out to you. The realm of truth is opening up. I think this is just your spirit team saying, yeah, we're here. We're protecting you. You know, we've got your back. All right, let's have a look at another deck. We have free spirit. Yeah, you do need to be a free spirit. The wild heart of freedom embraces the untamed, invoking truth, authenticity, and self-expression. Yeah, self-expression. And there is a thing about authenticity in this, because if you are able to wear masks all the time and fake it till you make it, it's sort of like you'd need to be doing that somewhere where ultimately, authentically, you want to be. Because otherwise you won't feel free. You'll feel trapped by the masks. And resonant truth, being in resonance with your soul brings all things to light. Yeah, that's connecting back to your emotions and your soul around all this. And as I say, that very clever mind needs to be connected to your heart and your soul. Okay, and sort of speaking of those sort of connections and dealing also with the shadow, I just want to use a card from a deck that can bring up sometimes shadow elements around spiritual energies or things that need to be transformed or understood. So for you, we get Ubuntu, compassion for others. Okay, so one of the things that can happen when you're very smart, like you are, is that you can get intolerant of other people who aren't as quick and so forth. You may not even mean to do it, but that can happen. And sometimes you can get pushback because of that. I've seen that. I've seen that in workplaces. I've seen it, you know, even back at school and so forth. Sometimes really smart kids at school or really clever people in a workplace may not realize how much they've kind of disturbed other people and how much they might get pushed back, not because their ideas aren't good, but because of that. So I think that this is Spirit saying, and your spirit team saying to you, that's your one thing to really think about. To think about making sure that if other people aren't as quick or as clever as you, how do you bring them with you? How do you show compassion for them? All of that sort of thing. That's where you get to truth rather than just being the smartest person in the room, because frankly, a lot of the time you will be the smartest person in the room, but that can be its own problem. So if you can temper that, and that again is the connection of the mind and the heart, then you will find that you will be more successful wherever you go. Okay, so let's just finish off with some astrology energy, and then we'll use the Astro Chakra cards to bring it all together. So Spirit, Spirit teams of pile 3, let's just get some astrology information for your people. Taurus. Waxing gibbous, which is about clarifying direction. So there is something with the youth there and so forth about clarifying your direction moving forward. 12th house, okay. And Gemini. So Gemini in the 3rd house coming out. This is very much showing the cleverness of your mind, the quickness of your mind. You're probably very witty. Actually, that's the other thing around compassion. If you are very witty, be careful about how you use humour. Some people may get hurt by that and may push back. 12th house suggests there's a lot that you keep to yourself, and that's probably good. It also suggests that you're probably highly psychic and thinking about psychic sort of things, and also understanding your own psychology, depth psychology with the 12th house and the shadow. It would be pointing a bit to this about really thinking about that. Clarifying your direction, as I say, is sort of something you need to do now. What is it you should be doing, not just what you can do, because you can do so many things. And Taurus, I think part of that is what can you manifest and have a good life with. That's why lifestyle is so important. What do you want your life to be like? Everything can flow from that once you really work that out. Because as I say, you have all the skills you need. It's just getting the right direction. Okay, so let's just finish up with some Astro Chakra cards for you. Solar Plexus Chakra, Creative, Sacral Chakra, and then the Crown Chakra. Okay. So your own power in the world and who you are, Mercury's there. Like it's Gemini, it's Mercury, it's the 3rd house. You are very, very mercurial. You're very, very clever. That's where you'll get your self-esteem. That's where you'll get your power. So I think that's just confirming. Don't doubt that. You can bring this into creativity also with Mercury there as well too. So it's a double Mercury. So what you create comes from the mind, comes from the wit and so forth. But it is important with it being in the sacral chakra that is true emotion. So that's that balancing of head and heart. And your spirituality helps you here because Neptune can bring you inspiration and spiritual beliefs that are an underpinning. That's what will help you with the compassion. That's what will bring it all through. Ironically, I think that your spirit team is saying that when something didn't work and you were kind of almost, you started to self-doubt yourself around that, that's almost when the spirituality opened up and came in. It gave you a little bit of a taste about what it was to not be the really clever one. And it didn't even mean you weren't clever, but it was just not be accepted or something, to get that compassion for others. So to see that as a gift, because it's really just meant to be, your spirit team is saying, to push you towards making that decision about what sort of life you want. And then from there, building what you want so that you can bring in the alchemy, the sort of balance of it and so forth. So I hope that resonates for you, pile 3. You have an interesting challenge with your mind. It's a wonderful mind, but you know, that in itself has its own challenges. So I hope that this is helpful for you. I hope you enjoyed the reading. If so, please like the video and subscribe. And if you care to share about in the comments, I'd love to hear. Otherwise, I hope to see you in future readings. Welcome, pile 4, to your reading. So we have some Dreams of Gaia cards to help me get a sense of some of the key areas that this decision or key decisions might be in, some astrology, archangel energy, and the divine Circus oracle. This is very interesting. I have to say, if you come to the right reading, then you are at the point of probably advancement around your career or power in the world in some way. It's got the sense of really understanding your abilities and being confident and moving forward, but also simplifying your life in such a way that you can step into this position of influence more than power, really, though you are going to be around powerful people. This card, which is like the Knight of Pentacles, but is different within the Dreams of Gaia pack, is about somebody who has leadership potential but basically chooses to use it in service to leadership and those in power. It's like the kingmaker rather than the king, which is often, in actual fact, far more powerful than the king. So it's a very interesting energy. There is something about your commitment, your loyalty, but also your capacity to do leadership, and then your choice not to be doing it overtly, that is going to be very important, that you have decisions around. You're going to have an opportunity around that. If you haven't got it already, it's coming in. And you need to simplify your life a bit around this, and you kind of know that, and you need to believe in yourself. Other people will believe in you. but you need to believe in yourself. Though I'm also getting that you need to, some may want to follow you. There could be, for some of you, an issue to deal with around this where you want to be, as I say, behind the scenes and the power broker rather than the face of it, but some people may want you to be the face of it. So some of the decision might be around that. You're highly motivating for others and you can manifest outcomes. And so this is bringing in power. This is the sort of reading for people who are working with politicians, who are working with CEOs, could be coaches or mentors in that part, could be organizational strategists, could be military strategists. It's all of that sort of thing. And if it's in the creative world, it's sort of like being the manager, the power behind it, the PR person, something like that. But there's definitely that sort of sense, and it's a complex environment you're in. With the good geisha card here, this is about making sure that you stay true to yourself when you're around places with many, many games are played. Now, I do think many people who've come to this reading, if you've come to the right reading, you are politically very strategic. You understand the nuances, both what is being seen on the surface and what is going underneath, particularly with Scorpio. Some of you, it could be in something quite forensic. Some of you could be sort of forensic psychologists or detectives in some way. But again, it's sort of like you're not necessarily the leader there. You're the person who really does the work and understands the environment. And there's something very transformative. So this could be transforming you, and then you may be having to make a decision about stepping into more overt power potentially. This could be what this is saying. Or it could be that you are seeing major transformations and you are the power behind the throne. And one of the things that you're having to decide, and the kind of things you have to manage here, is staying true to yourself, not just getting into the game for the game's sake. Because Scorpio can get really intrigued with, political sort of machinations and what's going on under the surface and get quite fascinated by that. So it's important not to fall into the game. It's sort of play the game, don't let the game play you, because of how motivating you are and how much you can manifest things. So very interesting energy. So let's have a look and see what your spirit team's thinking about this at the moment. Artemis. Hades. Wow, there's your scorpionic energy for you right there. Some other dreams of Gaia. So the Sage and wisdom. Okay, so for a start, if you are worried about this, if you're worried about being in this sort of really complex political strategic environment and having this much influence and being this motivating and so forth, and the amount of transformation you see around you, and whether or not you end up in a leadership role that's more overt. If you're worried about all those things, if that's part of what you're trying to simplify and make decisions about in your life, your spirit team goes, you are so wise, it's off the charts. Like, they absolutely believe you are in this role for a reason. You are definitely the power behind the throne, and you're smart enough to know why that's a more powerful position. You bring a lot of intellectual and spiritual heft to this. You don't need to be seen as the leader or the powerful one. You want to manifest the right outcomes, and you know you're in a difficult environment. So as I say, this is very, very clear. If this doesn't resonate, it's not the right reading for you, because it is so clear that you are a Machiavelli. You are a, advisor to kings. You are, a political advisor. You're those sorts of things in whatever context it is, and you have a huge amount of wisdom, and people know it. Okay, they know it. And you can go to the depths with Scorpio. You are not scared of the shadow. You are not scared of any of that. You know how to keep your head, so it's and literally, it's like being in a medieval court. That's a very medieval court feeling to it. You would be able to keep your head in a medieval court. Very much so, very wise, able to deal with that and go through the changes, the Plutonian sort of changes, the Scorpionic sort of changes, the changes of Hades and whatever. Take something through. If you are working in politics or activism or something, you will be off the charts, definitely. And you're very, very clever. It's just wisdom and clever with Artemis. Artemis was incredibly clever and is very much the individual, takes no prisoners, is not going to be touched by the politics. You can stay grounded in who you are. You're formidable, I have to say. Okay, let's have a look at the questions. So these two questions are from the Stories Oracle. It's an oracle that has a constellation associated with it and a question. It's hard to read the questions, so I'll read them out for you. These are questions your spirit team would like you to think about for their perspective. So for Erendanis, how might you flourish if you gave yourself permission to change? So for some of you, it may be that you are given an opportunity to move into a more overt power position, and that may flourish you. Or it may be that moving to this, rather than just being an operative behind the scenes, is that step, and you're worried about it. But you definitely could flourish. And then with Pegasus, we have the question, what if loving even the undiscovered parts of ourselves is the greatest act of revolution we are capable of? So with that Scorpio and that Pluto, yeah, you're all about change, bringing in change and so forth, spiritual warrior, all that kind of thing. It's like very, very powerful. Sort of interesting you chose the Rebirth Tarot. That kind of fits. So we're going to use the tarot now, and we're going to look at, firstly, what does your spirit team really agree with you about in these decisions that you're making around power and who you are in this power situation? And then we're also going to ask, what do they disagree with you on? What do they have a different perspective on? And what would that different perspective benefit you with? So firstly, for Pile 4 spirit teams, can you let me know what you agree with Pile 4 on? Okay, so they agree with you. I think you feel that you want to be the power behind the throne, because it's Knight of Pentacles, here's the Emperor. They agree with you that that is a good position to be in. They are saying that you could be the leader, and I think you know that as well too, but I think that they're agreeing with you that that's where you can have the most emphasis. They think, and they agree with you, that the environment you're in with this Scorpio-Pluto energy is really hyperbolic. It's really emotionally off the charts. There's lots of sort of issues about, you know, whether it's a nurturing or good environment. In fact, I don't think most of you are in particularly kind environments. You're in very political environments. Again, I think of a medieval court. So they agree with you that worrying too much about the heart at the moment is not going to give you the returns. You have to be very focused on what are the kind of practical outcomes and what are you aiming for practically. And they think that your judgment is absolutely spot on. Like you're there. This is picking up again what they're saying here. You're very, very wise. Okay, let's have a look at what they don't agree with you on, or what they would like you to have a different perspective on to help you with this. Okay. So they are saying to you that there may be more comrades in arms. With the Four of Wands here than you are thinking. You may be thinking you're very much on your own. They are saying, in fact, no, that's not necessarily the case. That if there's anywhere where your judgment is a little bit off, it might be in feeling that you have to do everything yourself. So they say, think about that. There will be people around you who are supportive. They also think that you don't fully understand the skills that you have. You may think that this is very innate and you haven't really got the sort of learning or the qualifications in some way, but they're saying you definitely have what is necessary for this. So if you have found yourself in this by virtue of your innate wisdom rather than through having 5 MBAs or something, don't worry about it. You have the skills that you need. They also think that there's some emotional stuff that you may have such an emotional connection sometimes to what you're doing that you get caught in a bit of an emotional trap. That's why they're saying don't focus on that at the moment. You will come from the right place. You're very grounded. You are the right person. I've said this before in other readings that, there's that saying that the person who's best suited to be the president of the United States is the one who doesn't want to be. You're kind of like that person. So they're saying that like the emotional impact for you is something that you should let go of for the moment, because you won't steer yourself wrong there. You're actually very emotionally aligned, but it's not the thing that you need to focus on in the moment. You need to step into the competition. And they are saying that if the reason is that you want to be the kingmaker rather than the king is because you don't want that extra level of competition, they don't agree with you on that. They say it should be the right choice. You should be choosing whether to be the leader or the person who supports the leader for the right reasons. So they are asking you to think about that perspective, that either choice is okay, but it needs to be based on the right things. Okay, so let's see what benefits you could get from just shifting your perspective along the lines that your spirit team is suggesting to you. Oh, okay, that's a blank card. I'll get into that. For a start, particularly this bit here, it won't be as tiring. Like if you find the people who truly are your allies, it won't be as tiring. And you'll get a good reciprocal energy and good team people think around you. So one of your weaknesses may be that you think you have to do everything yourself. There are actually people who could do stuff, and maybe you need to learn to delegate a bit more. So it will help in that. But it's also going to bring in something that at this point is unseen, because the blank card, and in this, not many decks have it, but in this deck there's a card that has pretty much the same thing either way. And when I get the blank card in a deck, I basically believe that what it's talking about is something it hasn't yet manifested. It brings in something surprising. So it's like, what this is saying is that there's a level at which you could go to, there's something, an outcome of what you could do that will surprise you, that you could not foresee at the moment, but that can only come in if you really think about the perspective changes. And I think a lot of it's around bringing in the right team around you. Okay, so let's look at some of the 3D impacts of this. So we'll look at relationships, career, wellness, and lifestyle. What Spirit would like to say to you about that. Relationships, expectations. See, I think this is picking up work relationships as much as anything, to be honest, or, you know, this political environment or whatever. What expectations you have, that maybe you can have higher expectations and be more connected with people and so forth. Also, it could be picking up saying, you know, if you've been disappointed emotionally before, you know, your expectations can shift, because, you know, that will work itself out. Let's have a look at career, because I think a lot of this is around career or power. Communication. Yeah, it's all about communication, communicating your advice, your strategy, and communicating with others to bring in the right team as well. You may work in communication. This could be how you are the power behind the throne. You could be a PR person or something like that. You could be a journalist who's actually dealing with people in power in a different way and holding them to account. Okay, let's look at wellness. Empathetic, that came up in another one. I think that this just basically means you need to be a little bit careful about when you empathize with people and things, because when it comes up for wellness, I think it may be where you take on other people's stuff too much. This might be why your spirit team is saying to you, let go of the emotion around this at the moment. There's a lot of emotion around what you're dealing with, but to have the clarity and to use your wisdom, you need to kind of shut that down a little bit. Let's look at lifestyle. Cycle. Okay, so I think that you are involved in something that has cycles. I mean, it does feel political to me. I'll say like that. Political things certainly have cycles. Being your lifestyle, and when you focus on different things, go with different cycles, have a really good sense of timing. Let's see what spiritual energy we have for you. I think I might just move the ring light a little bit, if I can, to get a little bit more light on this. Yeah, that's better, isn't it? Just getting into the late afternoon in Sydney, so that's why it was getting a bit dim. Okay, let's see what other spiritual energy there is. The lotus within you awakes. You are a master in light on high. Yeah, you are a master. You are a sage. You are wise. You are, you know, whether you are in a position of power or you're just influencing that, this is a big part of who you are in the world. And a message is trying to reach you. Be vigilant. The spirit world wishes to find and touch you. So there is something. Watch out for synchronicities. But I think your spirit team is trying to talk to you here as well. So it's a good thing that you came to the reading, because I think they really do sort of see so much potential for you. Let's use a different deck for some other spiritual advice and energy. Sacred self, you are powerful, yes. Live your life from a place of fullness and honour your perfect wholeness. So yeah, understand your power. This is really about you coming to terms with and understanding your power in some way and how far you want to take it. This is the decision that's around you at this point. And financial flow, you've earned it, you deserve it. Financial rewards begin to flow and profitable solutions unfold. So you're going to make money out of this. You're going to be very successful, definitely. Okay, so I also want to pull a card from a deck that can pick up shadow energy, and you're dealing with a lot of it in the environment that you're in anyway, and you've got a lot of skill to deal with it with the Pluto and Scorpio, but let's just see what else your spirit team would like you to think about. Flash over, it's all in your head. Okay. So The shadow aspect for you would be when you overthink things, when they're hyperbolic. And it's interesting, you know, like the 10 of Cups and the 8 of Cups, particularly around relationships and relationship energy. This is also why relationship expectation energy is important to think about. Your spirit team want you to realize that you have the wisdom and it's all in your head in that way, but equally that you know, you could overthink things. That, you know, you really just go, you make the choice about, you know, what kind of level of power you want, because you can have either, and then don't overthink it, just commit to it. Okay, so lastly, we're going to use some astrology energy for you and then the Astro Chakra cards. Leo, Mercury, there's the mind and the communication energy, Venus, and Virgo. Okay. So you are meant to be seeing maybe a little bit more than you feel comfortable with. Again, it doesn't mean you have to be the master, you know, or anything like that, but I think it does mean that you need to be seen. You need to have some recognition and so forth for what you do, and your communication style will bring you that. Your heart, I think, is in the right place, and I think this is why it sort of works out, and it grounds you with Virgo as well. But it's the Mercury and Venus elements around you that almost allow you to deal with the scorpionic stuff and all of those sort of things, because your heart's in the right place and your communication is very clear and grounded. But you do need to kind of maybe have a little bit more ego than you naturally do. You might almost have an aversion to ego, but I feel like you do deserve to you know, take a little bit of applause for what you're able to do. Okay, so lastly, we'll just get 3 Astro Chakra cards to close out the reading for you. Spirituality. So crown chakra, solar plexus chakra, crown chakra. So very strongly, that's all the wisdom, the sage, all that kind of stuff. You're in a very material thing and you're making very material, political, power decisions, but you're very spiritually attuned. This is like having Sun and Mercury conjunct in your crown chakra. So ultimately your life path connects with the communication of your spiritual self. So your decisions will be made on that basis. And I think your spirit team are very confident you'll make whatever the right decision is. I think they're saying it's fine, whichever it is, but it needs to align with what you feel your true life path is. And then that unlocks the power in your solar plexus with Uranus. You're a non-conformist in an environment that is very conventional maybe, or very powerful, but it is part of your power to see that, to see all the various elements, see all the different ways that things are done, to be very, very strategic. But you just need to align it with your life path and so forth. And I'm almost getting, if you know your chart, if your sun or your north node are in the 10th house, it may be tilting towards you should actually be the power of the throne, not behind the throne. But if it is more in things like the 6th house or in the lower part of your chart, then it may be better that you are the kingmaker or king. So that just depends on whether you know your chart, but it is maybe one way to see what your life path is and how that connects to this. So I hope that resonates for you, Pile 4, because wow, you've got a hell of a lot on your plate, but you're more than able to deal with it. I hope that your spirit team's different perspective has been helpful today and that you enjoyed the reading. If so, please like the video and subscribe. And if you care to share in the comments, I'd love to hear about it. But otherwise, I hope to see you in future readings.